Our last panelists here are from Smith Publicity, Sandy Smith and Corinne Moulder. And I'm sorry, because I know this. I think stand over here. Smith Publicity authors have appeared on many outlets for best-selling authors in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, The Atlantic, Oprah Magazine. And one of the things I want to talk about and show is this little book. Yeah, this little book was a book that was published on Ingram Spark, and it's called Little Kids and Their Big Dogs, and that's actually a dog on the front of there with that child. And they helped get the author on the Today Show. And we suddenly, our phones were ringing off the hook that day and at Ingram, so it was really great, really great. So thank you both for being here.
Tag team. Hi, I'm Sandy Smith from Smith Publicity, and this is my colleague, Corinne Moulder.
Yeah, a little closer, that'd be good, yeah.
Closer?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sandy Smith, and this is my colleague, Corinne Moulder, and we're from Smith Publicity. Everyone here thinks we're publishers when they see our booth here, but we are publicists. And what that means is we help make you all newsworthy. And being an author today is challenging. I think Bowker says there's 4,000 books that come out every day in the United States alone. Some crazy number like that. So what authors have to do is kind of break through the clutter, have a serious plan before writing the book in order to spark that very important book discoverability. So today we were asked to talk about 4 different topics here. Book publicity versus book advertising and what the difference is. Publicity and how authors really become part of the news. Advertising, which is options for authors, and also a little bit about what Adam went over, some book reviews, paid versus earned, and how this all works to, again, help that important book discoverability. So authors often tell us, writing the book was the easy part. What's next, again, is how to get readers, how to get people to discover your book. And again, serious authors need that plan, and advertising is one of the options. In advertising, this is helping to build awareness. However, there's good and bad to advertising. So whether it's a TV ad, a billboard, something you see in a magazine or a newspaper, authors are in control of where and when the ad is going, where the message is, who the audience is. So the positive, you really get to build exposure with your target audience. The downside is audiences know that people are paying for this. So it's not vetted, it's not necessarily credible, but it is controllable. So advertising is definitely an avenue authors can explore to help build that important awareness. Publicity. This is when an author becomes part of the news. So think about it as a wonderful article, feature story with an expert talking about their passion in their book compared to an ad by my book. So you can see the difference between publicity and advertising.
I do feel like Adam touched on a lot of things I'm going to as well. But we want to get into that a little bit more. And Robin had held up a copy of Little Kids and Their Big Dogs. And I know it's all about timelines with media. So that's where I really want to start. I think that's where we can get into a little bit more depth. With book publicity and mainstream media, as Sandy had mentioned, it is about the credibility. So the media is vetting the project. They're vetting the author. You probably, if you talk to any publicist, hear the word credibility and author platform. Well, that is something that we really have to consider when we are looking at how we can promote an author. even with a novel, with a children's book, we try to look for any connection that we can that is going to actually tie the author's experiences or a theme from the book or maybe a personal career aspiration that just gives it something that connects to the book that's going to make it easier for the media. We always say at Smith, we try to do the media's job as best as we can. The easier we can make it for them to think of a story, the more likely that they are to cover it. So some examples of authors in the news definitely come through author interviews on broadcast. I'll be very upfront. Fiction and children's with broadcast, it's not the most likely medium. We're more likely to see the coverage for fiction within print and online. The online community is huge for that. But I will say, with any broadcast, for television and radio in particular, starting in your local market is the way to go. And make it all about the celebration of a local author feature. So you want to perhaps be donating something to the community. Or maybe you are going to be having a local signing that you can plug during the event. Again, if you can tie it into any awareness month. There's honestly an awareness month for everything. There's a celebration day. I think there's a love your refrigerator day, which I always like to say. But think ahead, because those media timelines are important. And media timelines for broadcast are typically anywhere from 1 month to about 2 weeks prior to any date that you would love to see the coverage come through, or perhaps you're looking to land that interview to coincide with any awareness angle or the launch of your book even. That's the window that you want to give producers the time to actually consider how they're going to cover you and how they're going to fit you into the schedule. For feature stories, that's where we can get away from the review a little bit. So I know someone had said out here that their book was already published. I believe you said your books are already out. You're still getting reviews, which is great, but how can you make that attractive to print media especially? And that's going to be through the feature opportunity. So I know I mentioned awareness days again, or awareness months. Think of pop culture angles. Think of movies that are coming out. I know we were just talking to a publisher yesterday. They're really excited for a fall book that they have that ties into a really anticipated movie that Julia Roberts is going to be starring in this fall. So they're already thinking ahead to how they can capitalize on what's going to make the media already start thinking about those types of things. For feature stories, we also like to focus again back on what the author is really credible, what inspired them to write the book. Were you a student in school that was bullied, perhaps? Well, October is Bullying Awareness Month. I know that's a very hot topic right now. So some authors will also consider, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but a byline article or an opinion piece. 5 ways to overcome bullying. 5 lessons that I learned from being a bully. Kind of thinking about that, bringing your book along for the ride as a plug in your bio is a really strong way to do that. Science fiction, how would you go about doing that when it's, real life news and you have a really fantastic, entertaining story? Well, I know last year there were a lot of science fiction projects where they featured really strong female heroines. So that was a really big angle that we got to use, that we were able to work around maybe the book review itself and look more for a feature opportunity. Trend pieces, that's a big thing where we're looking to, again, tap into what the media is already talking about. We recently are promoting a memoir. It's called Banking a Love Story. I believe it's a wife who is unaware that her husband was a, white-collar crime, was kind of a Bernie Madoff scheme. Wizard of Lies is the HBO movie. I think Robert De Niro starred in. I did watch it. It was very good. And we used that as a tie-in for a memoir that was already released. We had the author on CNN to talk about her personal experience. So sometimes, I know it sounds completely backwards as we're here at BookCon, you have to not think about your book at all. You have to think about yourself. You have to think about the inspiration. You have to think about the community for your book. For business books as well, that's another big place where we go after vertical markets. We go after the trade publications that are really speaking to that business audience. So sometimes we say we use the book as a business card there, and that's absolutely what we do there. We did say that media loves media, so as you start to leverage maybe some traditional print publicity, that's something then to take to your local producers to play up for local broadcast opportunities. Okay, and now we're getting into the book reviews, and I know this is where I do think we crossed over a little bit into what Adam was talking about. But the publishing industry obviously has a number of those trade pubs that you really want to see your book in. And in there, it really is going to be about the timeline, thinking ahead as much as you can to really make sure you're submitting your book for that review prior to the book being launched. So what you're going to want to look for there, some of the top trade publications you may already be well aware of: Booklist, Forward, Kirkus, Library Journal, New York Review of Books, Midwest Book Review, of course, Publishers Weekly and Book Life, what brings us all here today. And I will say, we're even hearing at the show what we thought as publicists was submitting your book 4 months in advance. We're now hearing sometimes it's even 6 months in advance. Another thing is even the holiday outreach that we're doing. We traditionally were reaching out starting August. Some of our publicists are finding editorial calendars, they're starting in June. So you always want to be thinking about 6 months ahead, if at all possible. That makes it easy, right? Okay. A major thing to look for in any of the traditional book reviews or trades that you would be submitting for, it sounds so simple: follow the submission guidelines. We're all smart people here. You've written a book. Follow the guidelines. It's going to make your life a lot easier. That's giving yourself the best opportunity to let your book shine, to stand out from the competition. Some of the key areas to look for, again, timeline, but you typically will see that at the very start of any entry submission. Some of the trade publications require multiple copies. So if you have that in the submission guidelines, make sure you're sending through what they're asking for. A lot of trade publications also ask for a cover sheet. That's your chance to also pitch yourself a little bit, pitch your book, condense the information, pull out the common themes in the book that are really going to get readers excited. That's going to give editors a head start into thinking what books may be an appropriate fit for them to do as well. As we heard from Adam, self-publishing now is an option for a lot of these trade publications. So just follow the guidelines specifically for that as well. And really make sure, if at all possible, you can target the most appropriate editors. So you will often see that within an editing team, there are those who cover children's books in particular, those that would cover romance, those that would cover business, giving yourself a big head start if you're following the proper submission guidelines. Okay, and now we're going to kick it back to Sandy.
Does the slide look familiar, Adam? We're not going to go over, again, what, Adam did a great job in summarizing some of the book review paid options. Again, the price range is here from $225 to maybe $499. The most important thing is for paid reviews is that they are credible. They wouldn't be in business if they didn't give real reviews. Many of our authors tell us that they have rewritten their book, re-edited their book based on paid reviews. So that's a whole new creative way to use a book review. If you're getting feedback that there's something wrong, the storyline's not right, or that there are just too many grammatical errors, sadly, people do judge a book by its cover, and if there are typos in your book, no matter how good it is, it's not going to resonate with serious professional readers and reviewers and audiences. So these paid reviews can be a wonderful way to give authors good feedback. I can't tell you how many times we hear, but my family loves my book. Well, your family is not necessarily the best judge and going to give you critical feedback. So paid book reviews can be great to re-edit your book. And also, as Adam said, you might not get a good review. So with the paid reviews, again, do your research. Some send them off to the very important bookstores, the indie bookstores, the people who are deciding what books to buy, librarians, the school librarians. So these paid reviews, the good ones, if you choose, can go off and really be influential in getting attention, again, breaking through the barrier of all the books that are coming out at the same time in the same genre. So paid book reviews are definitely something worth exploring. And as Adam said, again, using the book reviews, the money quote, the pull quotes, definitely check, as Adam said, with the outlet that's doing the review to make sure that you're following the guidelines for the quotes. But using them on your book cover, on your website, on social media, on Goodreads, there's your bios. There's nothing better than a good review to differentiate your book. And I know a gentleman asked in the back about other people reviewing your books besides the trades. Those are all great too. So on the next slide, when you publish a book, you actually have control on this section on your Amazon page. It's called the the editorial review section. So if you have another author who blurbed your book, you have control and can put this in here. You can put in your reviews from, again, the trade publications or from bloggers, from Amazon reviewers, NetGalley. NetGalley is our friend. We love the people at NetGalley. You have control, and the more you can do to your Amazon page, this is a whole nother talk about Amazon optimization, the more robust, the more information you can give about yourself and your personality, your book cover, the search inside, again, the pull quotes. It's just going to help people to understand who you are and your voice. When we started Smith Publicity in 1997, self-publishing was a baby. And as Adam mentioned, the tides have changed. We have self-published authors regularly in national media. It's not easy for any author to get in national media, but it does happen, especially our nonfiction expert authors. But a good website, a good social media platform, and a really good Amazon page is so essential because you only have a couple of seconds to get the attention of these editors and producers, book buyers. So the pull quotes from reviews, whether they're paid or earned, are very important. So paid advertising. In general, we find feedback from our authors that the general paid advertising doesn't typically give a big rate of return. When I mean general advertising is a billboard in Times Square. Unless you're already a household name author, a big general advertisement is not going to generally get anyone's attention. However, when you start doing advertising, it kind of all builds in. When you have a book review pull quote, that's going to get people's attention, whether it's from somewhere like Publishers Weekly, Purpose Review, Forward, or another author blurbing your book. That's going to, again, differentiate you. But what we suggest typically is for authors to really do some research and find their target audience. Books are not meant for everyone. So where your readers live, so whether it's, again, outlets, which are fantastic for getting in front of, depending which one you want to do, librarians or bookstores, the author community in general. So there's a number of these listed here. Or there are many niche publications, like the Romantic Times. That would be a place, if you're a romance author, to consider doing some advertising. And of course, there is Facebook advertising, Amazon advertising, Goodreads giveaway, and you can do an ad to get your book out there and in front of people. There are a number of ways. Our biggest recommendation is to do your research, really think about your target, and plan accordingly. One option that many of our authors look at is, you'll see this on your Amazon page, it's the Amazon sponsored products. So as you'll see, guess there's a pointer, but you'll see here where the arrow is that there are sponsored books, and these are places where you can advertise, and it's by day and by month how much you want to spend. But when there are certain key terms that come up in your search, if people are searching for, say, parenting books of a potty training a 2-year-old, then if you have some key terms of the same, when the best-selling book comes up, yours will also be there. So there's just something to research, and all the information is right there on Amazon to help authors really explore, get your book out there, awareness for it. There's many different ways that authors can create awareness. We all say it's a marathon and not a sprint, and I talk to lots of new authors. And the first thing I say to them is, unfortunately, nobody cares that you wrote a book. So what we have to do as authors and as book publicists is to find meaningful ways to make audiences interested in you. And that's where we have actually lots of our fun in doing so. So we had, as Corinne mentioned, the tie-in to Bernie Madoff, the United's problem with the carrying a passenger off in not the nicest way. We had brand managers on Fox News and USA Today talking about this. Hers was a self-published book out a year and a half ago, and we have her on business media several times a week because she's a branding expert, and we're able to pull her into the news. So you have to think it's not a sprint, it's definitely a marathon. And while books definitely have a shelf life in terms of potentially reviews, there are other ways, author-led initiatives, from Goodreads to NetGalley to getting out there in your local community. If you are a romance writer, you can write about romantic spots in your town, how to have a romantic dinner, or there's so many ways that we can work with authors to keep them relevant, but you have to remember the end result. I think that's, I think Amy Collins said, put yourself in the other person's shoes when going into a bookstore, going to a librarian. Think about the media person, think about the end result and what they need and what you have that can be valuable. If you say, I wrote a book, they're going to say yes, and so did 3,999 other people today. So writing a book in itself is not newsworthy. So you have to get creative, plan at the beginning, and show your personality and have some fun. Any questions about book publicity? Yes.
I have bad experience with your company. I tried a few times to hire you to be my publicist, but one time nobody answered me, 1 year ago, so I tried hard. And the second time recently, a nice lady told me that my book already published, but it's wrong. Book was published just for test. Book is not edited. So I still would like to be a client, and I'm a person of interest, and this is my present to you. Now I am doing this book the right way.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we do talk to authors every day, and sometimes their books aren't a right fit for us, and we don't want to take anyone's money if we don't think we can have a good chance of helping them. But Ilya, thank you so much for presenting this to us, and we will talk.
Don't watch my cartoon before bedtime.
Don't watch the cartoon before bedtime.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And I stopped by your booth earlier. And
children's book, correct?
Young adults.
Young adults. Okay.
Historical fiction. But thank you for remembering. You guys look like you had August fever, like been standing up for like
Day 3.
Yeah, day 3. Yeah, so I know what that's like. What I wanted to a question that maybe you can help us self-publishing with hiring a publicist. A lot of people, because I'm a filmmaker, and I know how hard it is for publicists to kind of get the news interesting. And I'm hearing that self-published authors, it's really more challenging to get the media interested. Is that true? And basically, just could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, certainly. I can speak to that. self-publishing, it has come a very long way. I've been in the company now for 10 years, and I will say the stigma has gone down quite significantly. With the traditional, let me back up. So with fiction in general, it's all about the book. And with traditional media, as Mr. Katz had pointed out, if a book is already released, the very hard book-centric media, that may be hard to secure. But what we found is if an author is coming to us prior to the book being released, especially for fiction, that we do still have the window there. We start small. We don't just take on any project. We really want to make sure it's a fit. You mentioned already that you have a filmmaking background. So you have an entertainment background. Are you writing films for children, for families?
Roma in America. And by the way, my family hate my book. So what do you do then?
Okay, well that could be an angle.
My family can't read their gypsies.
That could be an angle. So what I'm hearing is that you have an eye for entertainment. You know, you have the opportunity to write content that's going to be compelling.
I guess my question really is is it smart to hire a publicist when you're a first-time author and you're self-publishing? You know, I do believe, of course, everybody else probably believes the same thing too, that the book has interest because it's about Roma and the Holocaust and things that people don't really know about in a young adventure thing. But you know, that's just me. I'm sure everybody thinks that their book is interesting. You know?
Yeah, we actually promoted an author twice. We did 2 books with him, and he did write about the Roma community. We had a quite successful campaign. We did a very brief campaign. So I will say maybe some of the things that you should be asking a publicist are those very questions. The right publicist is going to be honest. I will tell you that for most of the debut authors that we work with, we're very upfront to say the most likely coverage that we're going to secure is going to be online, through the blog tours, through the online book reviewers, within the local media market, and that starts to give us that foundation. Typically, all of our fiction campaigns, they start small because we need to gauge that. We do look to tie in the real-life elements when we can. That's going to help us break out of those smaller markets. But questions to ask a publicist would be, have you worked with projects such as mine? What do I might need to do before we get started? We are selective. We're selective for a reason. There are a lot of people who would potentially take any project on, but that's not what has kept us around for 20 years. So to ask those very hard questions, I think, is important. And one of the most important is to perhaps ask what other projects a publicist has promoted within that genre, or maybe with similar themes, that you have some confidence then going in that they have the right connections. Because truthfully, publicity, it really is all about the contacts.
Right, well, thank you.
So one of the things a lot of the other professionals have been great about is giving us some idea of how much money this is going to cost. So what should indie authors be considering in terms of their budget when they approach a publicist?
That's so important. I think first and foremost, you need to have your budget in mind, because you might start to hear the Cadillac services and they sound really appealing, and then to scale back from that may be a disappointment. Our services are in line with our competitors. Our full service options start at about the mid 3,000s and range upward. When I did start here 10 years ago, we offered 2 services. A lot of our authors couldn't really afford us, so we've expanded on those services significantly. We try to work to fit a range of budgets. We have services that start in the hundreds. We call them more of our book marketing support services, where we can perhaps write a press release and provide you with direction on how to use that release, up to the Cadillac services, where you're spending up to sometimes $20,000 plus dollars. No, not monthly. It's daily. Hourly. Any other?
Yeah, one question here. I've written 3 self-published. Third one shamelessly plug in it in wherever I can. To shamelessly plug in my latest book. It is An Indian Goes Around the World, what I learned from my 30-day European odyssey. And
I'm sorry, you said you've shamelessly been promoting it?
yeah, that's right. It's like an I can this even the analogy that I'm giving you, I use at several places shamelessly. You know that husband talks about his ugly wife. He says, "My wife may not be pretty to look at, but she has inner beauty. Please explore her inner beauty." And that's how I show my book journey. Please explore her inner beauty. Any comment on that? Am I being too cheap?
I'm not really sure of the question there. The question was a little broken up.
It's hard. It's really hard to hear, especially with this music. It's really hard to hear. Sorry.
Self-promotion? You're doing it on your own, you mean? No.
He likes it shameless.
Well, shamelessly, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the shamelessly aspect of it, but the truth is a lot of authors that we've worked with, they've given us a great head start. Self-promotion can work. It takes a lot of time. And again, as I mentioned, it's about contacts, and that's where a lot of times an author will already have the social media presence. They've already reached out to their network. They've started to build those editorial reviews on Amazon. They've started to reach out to the bloggers, and now they're ready to start taking it to the next level. And a lot of self-published authors, again, have given us that head start with the foundation. So in a case like this, we would talk, and we would learn about what you've already been doing. We learn again about the points of your book, your marketing plan, and your goals, and then start to see if there was any way that we feel we could help you to build on it. Okay.
Where is the audio? This was a free event. So anyway, so you're saying that basically with the book, I was Bon Jovi's publicist for 10 years, but this is back when we had magazines and our timing situations were much different than they are today with books. But you're saying with the book that for a TV and dailies, newspapers, I don't even know if there's magazines left, you're saying 2 weeks, but you're 6 months for if you want to get reviews.
For the reviews, it's typically you want to be submitting it about 6 months prior, 4 to 6 months prior to the release. And as Adam mentioned previously, the bound advanced review copies are best. For the broadcast, for the print feature, not for the review necessarily, but more of the splashy feature or the article or the tie-in, the print ranges about the monthly magazines, the glossy magazines typically work about 6 months prior to each issue. I know, crazy, Christmas in July is real. And then broadcast is a little bit of a shorter window, anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 weeks. Online can sometimes be the same day. Radio can sometimes be the same day. Newspapers, about, I would say, a month ahead of any event or tie-in is when you want to start reaching out.
And how do you keep them from publishing, if they get an advanced copy, how do you keep them from publishing their review?
We would line up a very strategic schedule. So we start about 6 months prior with alley distribution. Then we back off. Then it's about getting the author's name out there, getting them prepped and primed to start seeing that review coverage come through. About 1 month prior to the pub date is when we ramp back up full time, because then we're looking to close those opportunities that we started 5 months prior. So it is about a timeline. Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like they brought in the wrestlers in this next hall, so I think we're going to draw this to a close. Thank you, Corinne and Sandy. This was really fantastic. I would like to call out a couple of people that helped organize this event in a big way. Carl Pritzat from Publishers Weekly and Book Club. Justine Bilo, who's with Ingram Spark. And then even back in the back, Judy Allen from Ingram. Really helped to organize this event, and Ingram and Publishers Weekly together made it possible for this to be a free event for you. So we're really happy to pull this together, and really happy that you guys were so engaged